Hi there guys, I'm going to be showing you how to do the Primal Marsh. This is a pretty beginner dungeon, although without realizing what's going on it can be quite scary because the boss uses Confuse and has some pretty high damage shots, along with getting right in your face. It can be pretty intimidating, but once you kind of see it in action and kind of see where to stand, it's pretty simple. So we're going to be going over how to find the dungeon, how to find the boss. This dungeon, you have to locate the boss. The boss isn't shown on you right when you enter the zone. And then other than that, we're going to show you how to beat the boss. And then at the end, I'm going to take a view of the entire fight as if you were a level 20, fresh level 20, with some starter-ish gear, and show you that even with the most basic setup, without any gems consumed, without any stats maxed, you can complete this dungeon and obtain wisdom. So first we're going to go into the gods. Where do you find them? Alright, so the god locations, we have the north, south, east, and west. You're going to be finding up in the north that the penguins, little slidey boys that slide around and shoot little snowballs, they are the ones that are going to drop the Primal Marsh. So look for the penguins if you're up north, kill them. They're pretty simple to kill. Over in the east, you're going to find the little swamp crawlers. These guys are, I don't know, they're little green dudes. They kind of look like little worms. They can be easily confused in my brain with the blue dudes, the blue like serpents. You can go over there and kill them. Kill the little snakes, and they will drop the Primal Marsh. Down in the south, we have the anteaters. I think they're anteater. I don't know, but these guys drop it. They run right up to you, which is quite nice for finding them. They just present themselves ready to be killed, and they drop the Primal Marsh. And then in the west, we have the giant rats. And giant rat, mole, gopher, I don't know what they are. But these guys, they drop the Primal Marsh. What's also great about the west is the little anteater fucks are also there. So they will be great to attack too. So all in all, farm them in the west. If you want to find the Primal Marsh, head to the west, and you will be able to find them. So that's where you want to go hunting for. Alright, now that you've entered the dungeon, you're going to have to face some enemies that you're going to have to deal with. So one of the enemies you're going to deal with is the bird. The bird sits inside those little white eggs that you see, and as you run by them, they glow a little red and then pop out. This is activated by range, and once you're in their proximity, they hatch. Now these guys, they shoot a quiet and they shoot a confuse. Don't be afraid though, because this range is very short, and you will have enough speed to run past them. They're really only a big deal if you have to retrace your steps, or if you're following someone else who's running ahead. Now, the best way to deal with these minions is to just stand right out of their range and shoot them. You can stand fairly far away, within the distance of a dagger, and I believe a melee weapon, but regardless, they don't do enough damage. But for the most part, just ignore them. Next, you have the frogs. The little frogs and the big frogs. The big frogs, they shoot a boomeranging shot. It doesn't do much damage, but obviously if you run right through them, they're going to hurt. So just don't worry about them. Even if you tank one shot, you're not going to be bothered. Now the little frogs, they do decent amount of damage, but they don't really shoot too often, and they don't like try to lead their shots, so they're really easy to run past. As same with the big frogs. These guys, don't worry about it. Now we have the crabs. The crabs, they follow you and they chase you, but only if you come near them. And you can see that they start out with the spinning attack, sitting, and they sit underwater. So once you go near them, they pop up and start chasing you. Now the little crabs, they're not that big of a deal. They do about, 35 damage, armor piercing. Just don't let them sit on you. But they can easily pop up in the middle of the fight when you're fighting the boss, Darza, Darlock, or the Reaper. So just be careful, pay attention, see if they're there. They can easily jump into the battlefield. Now the big ones, they're a lot easier to see, the big crabs, because they have that giant claw that they attack you with. This does quite a bit amount of damage, but same thing with all the other enemies. You can easily outrun them, so don't worry too much about those enemies. And that's it. Those are all the minions that are inside the boss. So, in order to deal with all of them, you run away from them. It's very simple. You can run pretty much past every single one. Don't run over the minions. Luckily, every single minion has an indicator. The eggs are the birds, so don't run over the egg. Don't run over the little spinning attacks, because then you won't wake up the crabs. And the frogs are in plain sight shooting you, so just stay away from them. Pretty much everything besides the crabs stays still and stays in place, so if you're able to create yourself a little safe space, you can just hang out and be fine. But all in all, they're not really too dangerous. Just run past them. Alright, so now that you know what the minions are, now you're going to have to find the boss. As I said, finding the boss is not information that's available to you right when you enter the dungeon. In order to find the boss, you actually have to find the tile piece that exists at. So for instance, the tile piece is a square region that is actually a little bit bigger than the rest of the tiles. So you can think of the entire map as a grid, and each of the tiles where the normal minions would spawn exist in they exist across the map. So you'll see little like areas where they might shoot off and go off into the little areas. You can see different little regions that you can enter. But the boss layout itself is actually bigger. It's a bigger map. Now, what this means is there will be little cuts in the map. Normally you would have a certain amount of space of like the black space, but if you see what looks about 2 tile gap on either side in the black space, it's kind of like it shoots off in the corner, then you know you found the boss. Also, it's very visible by the fact that there's no minions on the boss tile. Along with while you walk into it, then the quest marker will show. So here are a few examples of spawn locations and boss rooms. Just a few maps that I went through when I was playing. As you can see, I talked about the little grid format. You can kind of see the squares, how each one makes perfect, nice little grids. But this is an example of where you don't actually get to see the map of like the little notch that I was talking about in the corner, where you can tell there's a boss tile. But sometimes you do get a map where your spawn is next to your boss, and you can actually spawn in and the boss will be noticeable. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen. Here, I would say, can be ones that are deceiving, especially if you're not really paying attention to the map. The room's kind of split off into 2 ends, but as you can see on the bottom left corner, there is that little offshoot, and can lead to dead ends. So what I like to do is, you check the corner to check for the dead end, because sometimes the boss room is ending up over there. But in this case, the boss room just is in the bottom right corner. Just Here another example, as you can see the actual notch right there in the top left, right where the boss is. It's kind of maybe a little hard to see, but yeah. And you can see the spawn rooms fairly far away. Here, you kind of have to do a little loop, and this is something you will notice as you do them, get better at it. The gap, the black gap, like the void lack of map between the boss room and the rest of the tiles is actually going to be smaller because the boss room is a bigger tile size. So you should be able to spot this as you get more familiar, and this will allow you to have easier access to the boss room. And lastly, this is just another example. Top left, you see the little notch. Look out for that. And yeah, you should be good at finding the boss. All right. So now we're going to go on to the boss fight with Darlock himself. So, as you can see, he spawns a bunch of minions after his little rage phase, and what happens is he shoots out, and these little wave of shots ring around him. Along with, he shoots out a shotgun of shots. Now, these little shots that he does are very slow and easy to maneuver around, so they're very simple to dodge. They don't do too much damage. You can see I'm taking 29 there. But the big shotguns, they do about 60, at least to this character. Oh, 70. But very simply, you just attack and push him. So now, his 5 little babies are all around, and they shoot weak shots. And then the 2 little other babies that actually chase you, they get in there. Now, as you can see, something I should have done earlier, clear the minions right on the outside if you are going to have trouble with them. But basically, if you have enough speed, none of these little minions will bother you. You can just run around them. If you're melee, you might have to deal with the weaken, and I find sometimes just sitting on top of them and just tanking the damage. As you can see there, the minions that are standing still and shooting out their shots, they are the ones that weaken you, not the guys chasing you. They just deal a little armor pierce. Little lag. Fun stuff. But yeah, you just have to kill the 5 stationary baby Darlocks, and then you have to kill the little ones. And as you can see, I'm showing you the shots that he shoots are predictive, and they do 150 armor pierce. So just avoid them. Honestly, they move too slow to really be worrying about, so you should be fine. But as you can see, once you kill these 2 minions, then Darlock enters the center of the fight. And here, he will start chasing you. And now he has these little radial attacks that try to hit you. And he's trying to sit on you. And he has that little slow that he's hitting you with. The green arrows do about 60 some odd damage to me. But the little ones are only doing 29. But even with a little bit of speed, you don't even need much. You can run past him. But basically you just shoot him and push him. And now we get to this phase. So as you can see, right there is that triple shot that comes out. It's the first shot that went towards me. That's the confuse shot. Number 1 thing to dodge is the confuse shot. As you can see, it just confused me, and now I'm, taking damage. The little guy in the middle that I just killed is just dropping little 80 damage bombs. Nothing severe. At least 80 damage to this character. But you should not have to worry about him too much. But this is the way you dodge this boss. You basically just stand near the ring of shots and walk between the bullets. Very simply, easy, simple fight, and you should be fine. So just weave in between, and if you stay near the edge, the little shots won't hit you. As you can see, you can do this without rotating your camera, but it's just up to what you prefer. I prefer rotating the camera. But as you can see, just stay ahead. Because the boss is moving towards you, you should be able to easily shoot him. So just keep running between the shots and you'll be fine. Yeah, and that's all there really is to it. Be mindful, sometimes minions get inside here and start attacking you, so clear them out. That's easily happens whenever you're not paying attention. But eventually you shoot him, and once he gets close to death, he will run into the middle and you've completed the fight. Occasionally, if you have bleed or high damage shots, he can die outside, but it's not a big deal. So that's a simple way to kill him. So final thing is the Reaper will occasionally spawn when you finish the dungeon. So just to quickly go over how you want to kill him. First thing you want to do is clear out the area and a little path between the Reaper and the enemies behind you in order to do the cheese where you drag him out. If you don't have this, you're just going to have to deal with him. But once he gets to this phase where he chases you, just drag him out into the radius and get him stuck. In this way, every other phase he'll just be stuck in one spot, and it's much easier to kill. Now, that's all there really is. The big things I want you to notice is the small little frogs. They have such a large radius that they can hit you. So while waiting for the spinning attack, just go around and clear stuff, and then you should be able to take care of them. If you do want to rotate within this spinning attack, it's fine, because the water doesn't actually slow you. But once you kill him, you're good. So the white bag that you can get from the Primal Marsh is Darlock's Spite. A bloody tooth ripped from Darlock's mouth is attached to this whip out of spite for the vile Spino himself. So this is the whip for the Worm Rider. It's a projectile that does 375 to 520 damage. It has a range of -3, which is very confusing. Its on hit applies a bleed for 3 seconds. It costs 65 seconds, and then after its duration is done, it has a cooldown of 1.5 seconds. On equip, it has 6 attack and 5 vit. So compared to the tier 6, you get +1 attack, +3 more vit, but you do lose 2 whiz. The nice thing is it is about half the cost in mana, and as you can see, even the lowest end 375 is higher than the high end of the tier 6. Thing you'd notice is also it doesn't apply a slow. But what is really interesting is how the shot looks. So you know how I said the -3 range? Well, that applies to the actual ability. So it's weird because what happens is the ability will shoot backwards and then shoot forward. And I believe that's what the -3 is referring to. I'm not 100% certain. What you will notice though is the ability goes off to the right and to the left. Which way it starts, it's just dependent on your last shot. So if it was to the left, next time it's to the right. So this makes the shot actually a little difficult to hit. But the best way to do this actually is to weave it into your shots. So while you're shooting your weapon, right? You're shooting your weapon, and let's say I want to hit this enemy. What I will do is I'll first, instead of aiming right at the enemy, I'll aim a little bit to the right. And as long as I am within dagger range, I should hit it. So see how I aimed a little bit to the right, and it kind of corrects it. So now that it's going to aim to the left, I'm actually going to aim. It's going to hook, it's going to hook. It's trying to hook to the right, so I'm going to aim left. So you basically aim the opposite that it hooks. So I'm going to aim it. It's going to go. So the best way I like to do it is, just choose one side. And if you see it overarch, that means you have to aim that side again. So there it hooks. As you can see, when it does hook, it applies a bleed, and you get a chain it. Some things to note about this. First off, it is piercing. So if I gather up a few enemies here, and I hook them all, it actually pierces. So I can actually apply multiple bleeds to a bunch of enemies, and this is really powerful, especially if you're trying to heal off them, because it does also apply the heal. You can actually get healing from multiple enemies, so it benefits you. For instance, if I just enter this infested cellar, all these little spiders are actually a lot easier to kill. So if I will wait for my mana to regen a little bit, I can gather up a bunch of enemies, and I can send them all through, and it'll actually kill off. So I didn't have the best aim there, but you get the idea. So the best way to aim with it, though, you just kind of weave to the right, weave to the left while you're shooting, and reliant about the dagger range. So the dagger range is, well, this one's not saying it, but it's like 5.6. So that's where you want to stay in. It'll hit that range. As you can see, it goes a little bit farther, but not by much. And when you're doing that little offsetting, the final hit might not. But the projectile does look bigger than it is. The big downside you need to realize, though, with this ability is the simple fact that bleeding doesn't stack if other people are applying bleed. If both people bleed, it doesn't matter. So in that case, what you should do is if you see someone else using the Scorch Bow or another person using the bleed, and there is no slow, go back to the tier 6 and apply the slow. You have a very reliable and long slow. But if you just want the consistent damage along with the extra point of attack and, you know, the survivability or the vitality, this is perfect. It also is, you know, just great because it does have such a cheap cost and low cooldown. Because not all the time you need a 5-second chain in order to heal. You might only need a second. But there is the item. Alright, so now I'm going to be showing you guys the dungeon while also playing as not a 8/8. So as you can see, I have 9 armor, so this is going to hurt a lot more. And I only have 31 speed. I don't even have a pet that gives me speed, so this should show you kind of, you know, what to expect. This character, I leveled straight to 20. As you can see, 20 fame, and I have not put any potions or gems onto the character. So first we're gonna farm the west, like I said, and we're gonna clear. I'm gonna go try to find one as quick as I can. For gear, I just took a bunch of tier 4, tier 8. Only thing I had on the time was a tier 9, but will be the same process, it'll just be a little slower. So hopefully I can find one here in a second. I might cut ahead, but I don't want to, so we'll see. Maybe I should give this wizard and this mage a name. Yeah, who knows? Jim the mage. There we go. Alright, where are they? There's this anteater, whatever the hell they are. There we go. Quick and easy. Alright. Let's clear out the trash here. Alright, so now rushing these are going to be a little bit harder. Okay, well, you know, sometimes you get lucky. But I'll run around after I kill the boss. So definitely going to try to stay away from him as much as I can. I'm going to just keep running to the left. That way his shotgun doesn't hit me. And all I gotta do is kind of wiggle through these shots. Keep my finger over the HP pot, but should be done there we go. Alright. Now, I gotta be very careful. These guys are really gonna hurt. So what I'm actually gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to create some distance. One thing you gotta realize is you move the same speed regardless if you're in the water or you're not. Right, we got a big dude coming in. So one thing I didn't do, which I would have done if I didn't find the boss so quickly, is I was gonna clear out the enemies. But this is fine enough. So I'll just keep rotating. As long as you can stay ahead of these guys, you shouldn't die. So if it just requires a couple passes, you're good. And now I can kill these guys. Just gonna keep staying ahead. Circling roughly around the same pattern as the boss. Alright, now Darlock gonna chase me. Now, I'm basically just focusing on dodging some little things, but really this is a DPS race. But I got 4 potions left, so I should be doing fine. This is really just I just need to make sure I do not take it. But luckily, due to the range of a mage, this is actually a little bit easier to rotate. If you're a melee, this is a little bit harder, but rely on the fact that he's moving towards you, so your weapon range just acts as it's farther, because he's, you know, it's like he's chasing you. So, as long as I can just wiggle between these shots, I should be fine. I'm trying to stay as close as I can to the ring of bullets. And there we go. Alright, let's get lucky. A little white bag for the video? Nah. But, that's okay. Alright, so now I'm actually going to go and run around a bit to show you that even with 30 speed, like, even these eggs spawning are not a big deal. You can get fairly close. These enemies, you know, they'll chase you, but you can see even with 30 speed, 31 I guess, a little off, it's not too bad. Now, when you do take damage, you know, you have less of it, so it's going to hurt a little bit more. But, yeah. Even on a 0-8, I mean, I can even take off my robe. It doesn't really matter. 0 armor does not matter. As long as you have enough speed, you can outrun these guys. Pretty much all the enemies that would shoot you can't. So you can pretty much effectively just run around this entire area and be perfectly fine. Obviously, you can take a lot of damage, but yeah, there we go. I just circled the entire pit. Now, I would not probably recommend fighting the Reaper in here. Well, it's not bad. If you clear out all the enemies, you can probably fight the Reaper fine, but that's up to you. Although, I will say, I would focus on getting that speed up, getting all your gems up. Wiz is really not that important in the long run for keeping your character healthy. But there's a Darlock finished, so